and welcome to our very, very last Times Talk of the year. Times Talks are just opportunities for students, staff, and faculty at Fort Hays State University to present on something they're passionate about, and I'm very, very happy and excited to introduce Brandi Mathis and Chelsea Wheeler, who are going to present about mental health on college campuses today. So let's give them some more.
The existential question, why am I here, is frequently followed by the question, how am I doing? Usually, we say fine. But many of us, what we need to say is, I'm not well, I'm stressed, can we talk? My name is Brandi Mathis. This is Chelsea Wheeler. We're both students in the psychology department, and we are members of the campus organization NAMI on Campus, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Okay, so before we get started, we're going to watch a short video about two people who talk about their struggles with mental health. This video was done at Cuesta College, so there is a little information about resources specific to them. However, we will provide some resources at the end of our presentation. So the one person in the video is a veteran who is going back to school. He talks about the trauma that he experienced and how this affected his mental health. And then the other person talks about her journey with depression and feeling of wanting to commit suicide and opening up to other people. So we're going to go ahead and watch.
The most difficult thing that I've ever had to endure was, in fact, going back to school.
I remember being at the bottom of my depression. It was chaos, this dark, empty hole in my chest, very alone. It's not being able to get out of bed, not being able to find the words to communicate to others what was going on.
I was in the United States Marine Corps for approximately 6 years. I did see combat. Overpressure from a blast caused me to smash my face. Both my eye sockets were crushed. My nose was crushed. It left me with traumatic brain injury, or also known as TBI. And because of that, I've had a lot of problems dealing with transitioning back into school.
I was a mess. I didn't have the right tools under my belt yet to know that I was going to be okay. I was suicidal. I had attempted several times. One major significant one, I should not be here.
After returning from Iraq, it became very difficult, almost as if I was translucent and, fading. I will get depressed. I will feel unworthy, and I was starting to spiral towards solidarity, and I was becoming more isolated.
School is hard enough all on its own. You know, the deadlines with homework and the projects, and then you throw in a depressed day or any struggles with mental well-being on that level. It seems to kick it up a notch.
When I saw my grades going down, my GPA dropping, I didn't know where to turn.
Being in college is challenging, and students, even if they've already had mental health problems, it may be increased when they come to a college environment. But also those students who haven't normally, maybe they've been able to get by and haven't noticed it, but all of a sudden they're away from home, they're supporting themselves, they're starting to process any problems that might have happened while they were at home that they didn't talk to anybody about, and they're adults now, and maybe they feel safer to talk about things. You just need to ask for the help you need, and somebody will get you in the right place.
I will say the biggest turning point for me is when I openly started sharing my journey with others, with my classmates and my family. It's made me feel not so alone, because it's been amazing how many people step up and say me too.
The truth is that we all need therapy, whether it's making an appointment to see a therapist and come in and talk to a non-biased person, or having a really good friend that you feel like you can talk to. And sometimes when life gets really hard and you need to talk to someone more often than you normally would need to talk to that good friend or that family member, that's when having a therapist can be really essential. To get services at Cuesta in the Health Center for therapy, you just need to be a registered student at Cuesta and have paid your health fee.
And what I realized was that I needed to get some kind of help. And asking for help was the first step. Or actually, I think admitting that I needed help was probably the first step, and asking for help was the second step.
There are a variety of services available on campus that can help you, be successful here. The EOPS program for first-generation college students. You can go to the counseling office, get help with academics and, general stress issues. Our DSPS program for any students who have a verified disability. We also have clubs and organizations. The Active Minds organization that's on campus now is really helping with the stigma of mental health problems and helping students work through that. We have a new class, art therapy class, that's really making a difference in helping students to connect with other students who are dealing with the same struggles and work through their stress and anxiety and adjust to the college environment.
I ended up going to the DSPS program. This is the Disabled Students Program, and this program actually changed my life. It opened that door, right? And I was able to find my niche.
Getting help on campus has taken me from being like a C student and has allowed me to be an A student. I genuinely smile more, and it's for real. I'll never forget driving down the freeway and I was smiling and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's for real. It is not fake.
When I was able to get help, I felt that there wasn't a stigma overshadowing my life anymore. I felt like the door was open and I was able to walk through it.
Getting help for me has meant everything in the world and changed my life dramatically.
As Chelsea mentioned before the video, we do have resources here on Fort Hays campus that are available to college students, and we'll be touching on that a little bit later in our presentation. The article that we built our presentation off of came from the July 27th issue of the New York Times, and it was titled "Suicide on Campus and the Pressure of Perfection." The article follows the story of Catherine DeWitt, who completed her freshman year at the University of Pennsylvania last May. She graduated high school with a 4.0. She was an athlete who participated in her school's cross-country and track and field teams, and her senior year of high school took 8 APA courses. When she got to the University of Pennsylvania, she was driven by that success that she had seen in high school, and she expected, and those around her expected, the same performance and the same achievement as she entered college. She declared a math major within her first couple of weeks at school, thinking that that would help her create a plan and to follow that plan and to reach those dreams. She felt the pressure that a lot of freshmen face to be involved on her college campus. She joined a sorority, she joined a campus church organization, and she volunteered 2 days a week tutoring elementary education students in the Philadelphia area. As her first semester progressed, she began comparing herself to those around her. Even though she had all this going on, even though she was leading the perfect college life, she was involved, she started out making really good grades. It seemed like everyone else around her had it figured out. They had a plan. Everyone else was more driven, more accomplished, had more friends, and were having more fun. They were achieving and participating in this college dream that she had built for herself. In January of her second semester of school, shortly after their winter break, a classmate of Catherine's was the third of what would be 6 students on the University of Pennsylvania campus last year to commit suicide. Unfortunately, this kind of trend is not isolated to the UPenn campus. Last year, Tulane University experienced 4 student deaths by suicide, Appalachia State 3, NYU 5, and Cornell 6. In light of those alarming numbers, the University of Pennsylvania created a task force and found through their investigation that their campus had created and cultivated this culture of hyperachievement and an acceptance of what they deemed pen face. And pen face was defined as acting happy and self-assured even when an individual felt sad, upset, or stressed. And this was just one of the really, I think, powerful quotes that I found in their findings, which said there's a perception that one has to be perfect in every academic, extracurricular, and social endeavor can manifest as demoralization, alienation, or conditions like anxiety or depression. The so-called pen face isn't a UPenn problem. Stanford coined their own version of the term called duck syndrome. Students need to appear effortlessly perfect, like a duck who seems calm above the water but is paddling away below the surface. Their students were expected to be smart, accomplished, fit, beautiful, popular, and involved, without any visual effort from the student, that these things needed to happen naturally, that these things just needed to happen to an achieved student. In her second semester, Catherine received a 60% in her calculus midterm, and this was kind of the breaking point for her. While she had been battling with some undiagnosed mental health problems the previous semester, she began making serious plans at this point in her college career. She began experimenting with self-harm and made a serious plan to end her life, going so far to research her university's policy on reimbursing parents of students who die by suicide. The silver lining to this story is that her roommate noticed these behaviors and was able to step in. She noticed that she had stopped eating after the death of her classmate. She noticed that she had been spending a lot more time alone, had been giving away possessions, and had been writing letters to her family and then throwing them away. Her roommate was able to approach her, and together they sought out an RA in their dorm. Catherine was unable to finish her freshman year of school. She ended up being hospitalized, but is happily living at home now, and her family is helping her on her road to recovery.
Okay, so everyone experiences mental health differently. And there's some stressors and triggers that specifically affect college students. So being over-involved is one of those that a lot of people experience. This can be taking on too many clubs or activities, taking on too large of a course load. It can also include work while going to school, which many people do. Drug and alcohol use can lead to more problems with already pre-existing mental health issues like stress. Substances are not an antidepressant, they are a depressant. Poor diet and lack of exercise. When you start feeling stressed and anxious, you are less likely to continue eating properly. You're less likely to feel like you want to go out and exercise, go walk, do the daily activities that you usually would do. Hazing, bullying, body image, and sexual identity are all problems that college students face daily. As kind of talked about in the video, we learned that veteran status is something that college students also deal with. Not only can they experience anxiety or stress, but they can also experience PTSD, depression, and other mental illnesses. Death in a family or a friend's, as Brandi kind of mentioned, Catherine experienced a death of her friend, and that led her to feelings of depression and other things. Relationships, this doesn't only include romantic relationships, this can also include any relationships with your peers, anyone in your social group. Being homesick and lonely is something that a lot of college students deal with, especially when they move far away from home. Academic pressure, career stress, and even financial stress is also something that college students deal with. As I mentioned, most college students work while they go to school. This can lead to grades falling, not making enough money, and this all leads to stress, which can lead to other problems. Also, lack of sleep. We all know that college students don't get enough sleep. You should be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And with busy schedules, it's just not always feasible. So all of these things can trigger mental illnesses or mental health-related issues.
So what is mental illness? Mental illness is defined as a wide range of mental health conditions which could affect an individual's mood, thinking, and behavior. Some classic examples that we see among college students are depression, anxiety, addictive behaviors, and eating disorders.
So there's some common types of mental health related issues that college students deal with. This graph shows the percentage of college students who were diagnosed and were treated by professionals in 2012 over that 12-month span. So anxiety is the highest and still is. This next graph here is from 2014, so it's a little more recent. This shows some of the most common factors that disrupt academic performance, stress and anxiety being the number one. Sleep and diet are two things that can really affect someone that's already stressed. And although stress is a natural reaction, those things can lead to abnormal levels of stress, which then lead to anxiety and depression. 86% of college students in 2014 reported feeling overwhelmed at some point. Depression is the second most prominent health concern among college-age students. 36% of students are affected by depression. In 2010, 45% of students reported feeling hopeless, and 30% of students were actually functionally impaired over that 12-month span. In 2014, the number went from 30% to 32% of college students reported being functionally impaired during that time. Eating disorders is also another common health-related issue that college students suffer from. 25% of students actually suffer from an eating disorder, and this often can be associated with anxiety and depression as well.
Since mental health struggles are very common on college campuses, we did want to provide you guys with some of the warning signs that you or someone you know may be struggling with those. Social isolation, this refers to kind of like what Catherine reported experiencing, is that there's a disconnect between you and your peers or even you and your family. This is where she was looking around and she was comparing herself and saying, all of my peers are much more involved or much happier than me, and I feel alone in what I'm going through. Seriously trying to harm or kill oneself or making plans to do so. This takes the form a lot of times in self-injury. If you notice someone who begins giving away their belongings, writing notes, talking about committing suicide, those are all very real issues that should not be overlooked. Severe out-of-control risk-taking behaviors, sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. This is often accompanied by physiological symptoms such as a racing heart, physical discomfort, or fast breathing. Not eating, throwing up, using laxatives to lose weight, significant weight loss or weight gain, especially within a short amount of time, are all very important factors to look at someone who may be experiencing an eating disorder. Legal and financial problems, severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Like Chelsea mentioned before, these aren't just romantic relationships. These are issues with your friends, your teachers, your peers, your classmates. Repeated use of drugs and alcohol, drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleep habits. If you or someone you know is waking up at 4 a.m. now when you used to sleep till 8, or you're having issues falling asleep, or there's very restless sleep. Those are all clues. Someone who is agitated much more than would be previously considered normal for that individual are all keys to that. Problems are related to school or work, intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. A lot of times this takes the form of neglecting personal hygiene, not showering, not doing laundry, inability to take out the trash. Those are all clues that someone may be struggling with a mental illness. And then also physiological symptoms. In addition to what was mentioned before, this could take the form of frequent upset stomachs, headaches, or even just general aches and pains that are unexplainable and don't go away.
So there's some risk factors that can cause students to experience mental health concerns. One of which is blood relatives. If you have a sibling or parents that have experience with any mental health related issues, then you are also more likely to experience these as well. Stressful life situations, which can take place as financial problems, relationship problems, and even academic difficulties. Traumatic experiences, as we saw in the video, veteran status, someone who experienced an assault or any other type of traumatic experience. Substance use, also as I mentioned, this is a depressant, not an antidepressant. So if you're already stressed and overwhelmed, the use of substances can further inhibit that. And also unhealthy relationships. As Brandi and I mentioned, this can include romantic, peer, any social groups. This can also just include having the lack of a support group.
So what should you do if you recognize these warning signs or risk factors, either in yourself or in someone that you know? The first thing is to know that you're not alone and to reassure that individual that they are not alone. If it's you that's struggling, tell someone you trust, whether that's a roommate, whether that's calling home and talking to your parents, if it's a boyfriend, a girlfriend. Just make sure that you don't go at this alone, that having support in this is an extremely important factor in successful recovery and treatment. Be sure to share your concerns either about yourself or with the person who's struggling. Don't be afraid to ask your friend if they're okay. I know that we have cultivated this weird culture of solitude on college campuses, that what I'm facing and what I'm dealing with is my own personal struggle and that I need to deal with it and I need to get over it. But that shouldn't be the case. College campuses are a prime location to implement and to help support a healthy community that does work together to get through these issues. Be sure you're offering support, you're being a friend, and know that help is available, both locally on your college campuses. There's hotlines, there are websites that you can go to. There's no lack of resources to help you or someone you know get through these issues. And just know that hope and encouragement, they're real and that they're very important.
So how do you cope or how do you prevent struggling with a mental illness? One very important thing is to stay active. Exercise can help manage the symptoms of depression, stress, and even anxiety. It's important to also know that even light physical activity can help make a difference, whether it's just getting up to go out for a walk, but keep that in mind. It's important to focus on the positive things. While you're experiencing anxiety or depression or any other mental illness, you go through changes, and these changes can be scary. So it's important to focus on anything positive that you can find. Avoid excessive substance use. Again, like we've mentioned, it's difficult to treat your mental illness while using substances, and it can also cause your symptoms to become worse. Learn about an illness or any sort of struggles that you're dealing with. Include your family and other members of your support group so that they can understand what you're going through and they understand how to help you. This can also include joining a support group with other people that are going through the same thing that you are. You can help educate each other. Also make time for yourself. This can include things as little as journaling every day, exercising, joining those support groups, and even just time to relax and just kind of just spend time with other people if that's what you prefer, or spend time doing things that you enjoy.
This is just a list of the local resources that we have here, both in Hayes and on our campus. At Fort Hayes, we are extremely fortunate to have the Kelly Center, which offers free counseling to enrolled students at Fort Hayes. At a lot of universities, especially bigger schools, this service, it's maybe free the first 3 times you go, and then the student has to pay. And at a lot of schools, it's not free at all, but there is actually a fee associated with that. This is free counseling, and they offer counseling not only for mental health issues, but if you need career or academic counseling, those are available as well. They have a 24-hour emergency line that if your roommate is struggling in the middle of the night and you don't know how to handle it, there is still local help available to you 24 hours a day. We have the office hours and the location listed up here. We also have here in Hayes High Plains Mental Health Center, who also has a 24-hour phone number that you can call, and offers more licensed professionals that are here in the community. If the Kelly Center is overbooked, you may be referred there, or you may be more comfortable seeking help that's not on your campus.
So in conclusion, mental health matters, and it affects many people. 1 in 4 adults are affected by mental health each year. It's common and it's very real, and it can happen in mild or brief situations and even serious and persistent. As I mentioned, everyone experiences mental health differently. College students are especially susceptible to mental health related issues because of the stressors and triggers that are associated with school and work. And it's okay to ask for help. Don't feel ashamed. As we've mentioned before, there's many people that are experiencing the same things that you are. So be sure to ask for help. And on the following slides, we also have some other resources that are more nationwide. So we'll talk about those as well.
Because a lot of us that attend Fort Hayes aren't from Hayes, we did want to just give you guys some other resources that are more nationally and internationally based. In addition to the Kelly Center, there's a suicide prevention hotline you can call. You can talk to someone there. The Kansas Suicide Hotline, another number, it's going to be able to be a more localized help for you. If ever you're in the situation where someone is actively self-harming or is in the process of contemplating suicide, 911 is definitely the best number to call. There's actually a trend in recent years where emergency police officers are being trained how to better handle these situations, and that's always going to be the first number you want to call if someone is actively harming themselves. There's a crisis text line which is available if you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone, especially if you're an anxious person. Crisis text line is available to either text from your phone or even have a chat from your computer. The Trevor Project is specifically set up for individuals in the LGBTQ+ community. Sexual identity, especially in a state and an area like Kansas, may be something that you or another student feels the need to struggle with quietly. This offers great support and is an extremely helpful resource for members of that community. And again, High Plains Mental Health is available during the summer for students. Do you guys have any questions for us? We're definitely not professionals, but we can answer questions you have or definitely find information for you. Yes?
So, I've had friends come to me and say that they may feel that they're depressed, and from the outside perspective, they're not, and because of the different things that you mentioned. And then I've had friends who are just like hypochondriacs and like they are lazy, and so what is the line, and what are some more in-depth perspectives like you can look from to kind of look beyond the surface? Because as college students, a lot of us don't do laundry regularly, and those other practices, and those, it sounds very juvenile maybe, but it's kind of hard to tell sometimes whether it's really should you really speak to them about it or alert someone, or if you should just look over it. So what are some other ways, I guess, that you can, or what some other things that you should seek out?
Sure. I would definitely say that it depends on your relationship with the individual in question. And another thing, just coming from a mental health perspective, I would say err on the side of them not needing help but asking anyways. just because these are things that individuals frequently do from the outside. They look fine. I didn't mention this, but in the article, which I can definitely email that article that we're talking about in this presentation to anyone who's interested in it. Catherine, the girl that was about, specifically says, like, from the outside, no one would have known I was struggling if it hadn't been for my roommate, who is, you know, in my business 24/7, was able to report that, because on the outside, you know, I was studying, I was working, I was hanging out with friends, and it was very internalized. So I guess my advice, and Chelsea may have more to add, is just to always err on the side of offering help when it's not needed.
So I'll just kind of put my 2 cents in. As kind of mentioned, everyone deals with it differently. And so, you know, you mentioned that, you know, some college students don't do laundry every day or every week, but what's normal to you, or what's normal behaviors to someone else, when you start seeing those behaviors change, that's when you can really just know that something might be happening. Brandi kind of mentioned with the article, Catherine, nobody would know, or nobody would have known that she was dealing with this until they went and got help. As someone who suffers from depression and anxiety on a daily basis, people don't know it. For me, I had friends and I had a good support group that noticed things like I became very irritable. I wasn't sleeping at night. My appetite changed drastically. So things like that. When you have people that are exhibiting certain behaviors, and then they change drastically, that's when you know that something's going on.
Are there other questions?
I don't think it's a question, it's more of a statement. If you're on medication, you really need to check your side effects of the medication.
Yes.
I didn't realize that after having my youngest, I started feeling like everything was making me mad, and then this was happening and that was happening, and I had my first panic attack when my youngest was 6 months, and then here it is 4 years later, and I've been taking all these anti-anxiety medicines, and I found out it's my birth control. And so now I have to wait to be able to get it to be removed. But like, I used to go to the lake, I used to go to basketball games, I used to do everything, and it I couldn't go before.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, just something as little as, you know, something like that, you know, it'll be amazing to be able to cross the street.
Definitely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Are there any other questions or comments you guys have? All right, if not, I do want to take just a slight bit more of your time. Like I did mention, we are from the National Alliance on Mental Illness here on campus. I know we just preached you guys don't get over involved, but I'm going to plug for my club anyways. We meet every other Monday at 4 p.m. in Martin Allen, which is the tiny little psychology building over by Rarick Hall. We only have one more meeting of the year. It's on May 9th. It is a end of year party. It is finals week. We are not going to discuss anything. If you guys are interested in being involved next year, I would highly encourage you guys to come by. Like, don't feel the need to bring something. We're going to have food. We're just going to chat. I'm graduating, but you'll be able to meet our president next year, who's going to be Chelsea, and our other officers, and find out ways you can get involved. If you guys are passionate about mental illness, if you're passionate about breaking the stigma that surrounds that and saying it's okay to talk about this, like, this is an excellent organization to join. That is the whole reason we exist, and it's the whole reason we want to do talks like this and to do other activities throughout the year. So if that's something you are interested or passionate about, you don't have to be a psych major, you don't even have to, you guys could major in math, you could do HHP, I don't care, come join, like, or just come and check us out. And then the last thing I have is that part of NAMI, we are bringing this documentary to campus tomorrow night. It's called All These Flowers. It's a documentary about individuals who struggle with bipolar disorder. We actually are fortunate enough that the filmmaker Kevin Bryce is actually going to be there to do a Q&A with us afterwards and talk a little bit more about the individuals in the film. There are individuals from people with families, a prisoner in Leavenworth Prison, all who have diagnosed bipolar disorder, and it's how that they have coped through their different lifestyles and different treatment options. and how they've gone through that. That's going to be free. It's open to the public if you know someone off campus who would be interested. It's going to be in the Stover Lounge, which is upstairs in the Union, and we've collaborated with all of these nice people to bring it to you, so we'd hope to see you guys there. If there are no other questions, thank you guys so much for coming. This is a great turnout.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Before you all run off, if you didn't get a chance to swipe your card and sign in, then I will do that for you. And yeah, thank you for coming to the last Times Talks. And also, before we leave, we have one more person who's going to present something very quickly. So, just real quick.
Hi, everybody. I'm a graduate student here and hoping to work with this community. Has anybody ever heard of the tapping solution? Raise your hand if you've heard of it. EFT. It's starting to become pretty well known on the coast. It's a series of movements that you do on yourself, which align with the meridians, like in acupuncture. You've heard of acupuncture. You also, it can approach physical pain, emotional pain. It's pretty miraculous. I'm going to be doing a training free on Fridays at 4 o'clock by Starbucks. If you want to come, I could stay if any of you want to. I mean, I could teach it to you in 5 minutes. And literally, on a scale of 1 to 10, if right now you're feeling stressed out, I can't get it all done, everything's overwhelming. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 10. Most people that do this series of 8 tapping points and make these affirmative statements, within 5 minutes of doing that, you're down to a 7 or a 6 in terms of the intensity of the feeling. So I experienced it myself. I'm not trying to promote it. There's no money involved or anything like that. I just got really good results from it. So you were nice enough to say that I could talk about it. So if anybody wants to stay, and I could just show you. I mean, it's a self. You don't have to have somebody else doing it. It's not a pill. It's free. So if anybody's interested, at 4 o'clock on Friday at outside of Starbucks, we'll meet and I'll train, or I'm here for however long if anybody wants to talk about it. But yeah, it's pretty powerful. It's and it's no drugs, no therapist. You don't have to make an appointment. You can do it yourself. So it's called the Tapping Solution. Thank you. Thank you.